Measure temp there before it goes into the patient's airway. Patient exhales back to the ventilator. Remember, these tubes are to power my heated wires. Are we okay with what this all is?
Yes.
We good?
And that goes, the gray wires go into the circuit, the spot in the circuit, right? That don't
Yes.
fit right now.
Correct.
Okay.
It don't fit because we have a different heater
Okay.
and circuit. All right, I just wanted to show you the whole heater setup so you would hopefully understand that. Are we okay?
Yes.
All right, Emma Lou,
Yeah.
can you place this with the Concha Walter? You are a fabulous assistant, you and Courtney. Shit. I might just send y'all home for the day. I think y'all got it. You really don't.
Not at all.
Do we have any questions about the circuit? How we're connecting this to the patient? Okay, excellent. So now let's go back to the ventilator. Electric power source, pneumatic power source. We turned it on. Okay. Every time it comes on, it's going to ask you all these questions. I'm not interested in you knowing all that shit right now. Standby. So the vent is on, but it's in standby. It's not actually delivering any gas to my patient. So let's talk about some of the features of this ventilator. If you want to twist the screen, you do this. So I can completely turn the screen around and face the other way. All right, which I like. Because if the ventilator is in an awkward position next to the patient's bed, you can turn the screen to face it where you can see it. Okay? If the screen is at a bad angle, there's a button back here, you can tilt it. Okay? Let's lock the wheels so it quits turning. Can everybody pretty much see? Y'all can probably come and sit now if y'all want to get comfortable. Emma Lou, get you a chair. Or you could just sit on Raquel's lap. She says she liked you like that.
I know you're engaged.
You're her BFF. Okay. So let's look at the screen. First things first, you have this little plexiglass piece. This button right here that is lit up orange is how you get the vent in and out of standby. Okay, so if I was ready to connect a patient to this ventilator and I wanted it to start delivering gas, I hit this button and you'll see that it starts to deliver gas. Okay, if I want to put it back in standby, hit it again, it says, do you really want to go to standby? Yes, I do. It's back in standby mode. So that's what this button does. When it's orange, you're in standby. When it's green, you're working. Okay? Then you notice you have these 4 knobs. These are your quick access knobs. You'll notice that you've got 4 settings down here. The O2 concentration, which is the same thing as your FiO2, right? The PEEP, the rate, and the tidal volume. If you quickly wanted to change those 4 settings, you could just go in here and turn the quick access knob. It's so you don't have to go into the main menu to make a simple change. So if you just say, this patient needs 50% oxygen. Boom. Done. You didn't have to go into the menu. Okay? Then you notice you've got 4 little buttons. You've got start breath, O2 breaths, expiratory hold, inspiratory hold. So O2 breaths would be to give the patient that 100% oxygen for 2 minutes. Start breaths, you could hit to make it start those O2 breaths. Expiratory hold would be to do an end expiratory hold. Remember we talked about that? That's how you measure auto PEEP. Inspiratory hold would be how you do a plateau. So are we good with the bottom part? Okay, let's look at the side.
What was this last button?
Inspiratory hold.
And that's plateau.
This is do a plateau. Okay, on the side, this yellow button is the alarm silence button. Okay? Alarm profile is how you set all of your patient alarms. Okay, save, we're not worried about that right now. The other button you need to know about is the trends button, and I'll show you that in a little bit. And you don't need to worry about these last 2. These here, main screen, just will always bring you back to the main screen. Menu is another sub-menu. Quick access is another way to quickly access things like your graphs and stuff. Not stressing about that too much, you'll kind of catch those as we go. This blue knob is how you make a lot of your changes when you're in the main menu. Okay, so now we're in our main menu. Here you've got an additional settings button, we'll get to that. We already talked about these values, okay? This is how you get into your main mode screen, right up here where it says volume control. Notice the little person to the left of them is a blue adult-looking person. Do we see that? It's because I have the ventilator set to be an adult. I also have it set to be in invasive ventilation, meaning you go an ET tube or a trach. If I wanted to ventilate a baby, I select baby. Now the pink baby shows up. Just be aware that you have to have a different circuit for the babies. If I want to do non-invasive ventilation, meaning I want to apply a mask and use this machine like a BiPAP, I could do that. Okay, so let's say that we're extubating a patient and we're afraid the patient's going to fail extubation, and we want to go ahead and just put the patient on BiPAP for a couple hours or a couple days immediately upon extubation. I can use this same exact machine and this same exact circuit. All I have to do is go get a BiPAP mask, connect this. So that's a good feature of this ventilator instead of having to go get a whole separate setup. But for now, we're going to be in adult and we're going to be in invasive. Are we okay with that? Okay.
One more thing.
Mm-hmm.
What was the volume control button again?
That's the modes. That's like your main menu for the modes. Okay, sorry. Just checking one thing. Okay, are we good? All right, so let's go ahead and look at some stuff. So to get things started, first of all, I need to connect something to this. So I'm going to get my Teflon, which has a leak, so don't stress about it. Okay, it's a leaky lung. All right, so I've got my patient connected, and now I'm ready to start ventilating. So how do I start ventilating?
You have to press that button at the bottom.
Good, get the vent on the standby. I have a leak. What's my problem?
You gotta close your port.
Close that port. Excellent. Oh, Lord, you looking bad. Don't like it. We might have to go with the other one. Cause that ain't gonna do shit.
You got another one? Yeah. It's alerting already?
Okay.
An alert. Go on and on and on.
Okay, good. All right, so now we got a better functioning lung. Let's clear our alarms. Okay. So let's look at a couple of things. Let me change a few things so that it's prettier and more like I want it for you all. Okay. So looking at this screen, you notice you've got three curves, as I like to call them. You have a pressure time curve, flow time curve, volume time curve. So what you need to know about this ventilator is the yellow graphic is your pressure, the green is your flow, and the blue is your volume. Okay? So that's what those all mean. What's on the right side of the screen? Notice I have three numbers in yellow. Those are all pressures. Is anybody colorblind? No. Okay, because it's important to know.
Go over the one more time. Blue, green, yellow.
Yellow's pressure, green is flow, blue is volume. You've got three numbers here in yellow. Those are all pressures. The first one, which is the biggest one, is your peak pressure, your peak, PIP. Okay, so this patient's PIP is 20. Their P mean, which is their mean airway pressure, remember we said that's like the average pressure throughout inspiration and exhalation. That is 8. And then the other one is your PEEP, which is reading at 5, which is good because I have my PEEP set at 5. Sometimes it may not always read the same.
So is peak normally the lowest number out of those three?
Okay. It should always be the lowest number. Now your mean might be the same as your PEEP, or it might be just a little bit higher. But the PEEP should always be the lowest because it is the baseline. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Whereas the mean is the average of inspiration and exhalation. So your PIP will come into effect when calculating your mean. Think about if you drew little lines, right? Remember that figure where it measured all the little pressure measurements? Okay. The green is a little bit more confusing because the graphic is actually showing you the flow, but the numbers have nothing to do with the flow. This number is your total respiratory rate. So right now my patient's total respiratory rate is 15. My set respiratory rate is 15. Is my patient breathing over the vent? No. No, they are not. Okay? So they are set to get 15 breaths from the ventilator, and they are only getting 15 breaths. So that tells me that the patient is not asking for any additional breaths. Okay? This other big number is your FiO2. It's telling you what is it analyzing at. It's analyzing at 40%, which is a good thing because I have it set at 40%. It may not always read exactly the same. The blue. All of the numbers in blue are volumes, and this is the volume curve. So the patient inhales, they exhale. They inhale, they exhale. Notice the patient inhales, exhales, inhales, exhales. Notice they all line up, right? Oop, my bad. So this is the pressure, the flow, and the volume for that one single breath. Okay? So this top number, the MVE, is the minute ventilation. Okay? Why does it say E at the end? Because that is the exhaled minute ventilation. So right now, if you had to figure out your patient's minute ventilation, you could do that. You simply do that by saying 15 times 500, which is 7,500 mLs or 7.5 liters. So that's what the ventilator is delivering to this patient. The patient's exhaling 7.6. That is normal that sometimes they will exhale a little bit more than they theoretically inhaled. Okay? So their exhaled minute ventilation in liters per minute is 7.6. The VTI and VTE, what are those? Inhaled tidal volume, exhaled tidal volume. So the patient inhaled 497, they exhaled 501. What you have to understand, guys, is there is a little bit of a lag. So this 498 that they inhaled, they have to inhale another breath before the exhale shows up. So you can't go, like, look at a breath and go, okay, they had a breath, they inhaled 497, exhale 504. That 504 is the previous breath's exhalation. You have to wait for the next inspiration to occur before you can chart your exhalations. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I can't go, okay, they exhale. They have to exhale first. So there's a little bit of a lag on the exhale volume. Are we okay with that? With what all of these numbers are? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. So looking at a couple of things, you can see that the patient has a positive baseline above 0, right? Looking at the pressure graphic, because the PEEP is set at 5. So what happens when I